valedictorians, and they're just these kick-ass lawyers that are now fighting for the buffalo. But then like 3 weeks ago, we had a course case heard in Montana, and this just gives you an idea of the prejudice and the cattle barons that still run the West. There's this old guy named Judge Level who retired 5 years ago, and anytime a buffalo case comes up or something about the environment, he comes out of retirement just to cover that case. So whenever we go to law, whenever we try and use the Babylon system to beat the Babylon system, we always got to figure to go to the next level of courts just to even get a start. But it's a good way to get it. On that table back there, we have a listing petition that we'd love you all to sign. It's to get the Yellowstone herd listed as a, what do you call it? It's a special, distinct population under the Endangered Species Act. And I won't lie to you, if you do sign that petition, you will be on our mailing list, which means you'll receive one newsletter once a year in the mail. Also, if you sign up on the email part, you'll receive our updates and get updated when things are going on up in the field. The other things that we work on, we've had bills in the Congress that almost passed. We've got a guy that's out there lobbying for the buffalo. We're really hurt that Salazar didn't get elected because Grijalva is a huge champion for the buffalo and has helped us write some bills. But we all know that basing our hopes and dreams on today's politicians is like a corporate endorsement. It doesn't really go very far, and it's time we get back to community and taking care of one another, and I think these are all things the buffalo are trying to teach us if we just open our ears and listen. I've been in this movement for 25 years, and I've watched things dissolve over dietary issues. And, one thing that I think we really try to celebrate is our diversity and respecting and honoring it in a way that we're not insulting one another in our beliefs. We're respecting each other's beliefs and learning to live together again to make this change together. Because if we'd quit fighting each other, we are the majority, and we could take this country back. But we tend to be our own worst enemies and look for fault in each other because it's easy to do it between me and you as it is to go out to the businessmen that are ruining this world and face them one-on-one. And so I just wish that we'd remember that and keep our energy that way. The last thing I want to bug you about is a story. Back in 2000, it was kind of an ironic year. We had the most volunteers we ever had, 70 at once. And ironically, we had one big bull buffalo out of the park. So needless to say, this big old boy got a lot of attention and educated us all a lot more than we ever would have guessed. Well, every week they came out because they have this huge budget, and when governments get budgets and they don't spend them, they don't get them again next year. So they have to come out and do something every week and torment this poor old bull. And they'd come out every week and try and catch him with their snowmobiles, and every week he'd run into the thick woods, get them all stuck, and they'd go home empty-handed. It was just the most beautiful thing to watch. Now, we're not really into domestication, and we try not to do that in life, but this little guy touched us so much, we gave him a name, and we don't usually do that. But because he was such a cool, wise, wittyful guy, we called him Houdini, because he tended to always get away. And because we're not very good at naming things, he used to hang out at this little meadow that's about a half a mile outside of Yellowstone on the Madison River, and it's called Houdini's Meadow. Well, came April, and Houdini decided on this day he was going to walk back into the park. And we all got extremely excited. All right, our season's going to end early. We can go into summer mode. Things are looking good. And he walked down the Madison River, crossed Highway 191, went up on the North Bluffs, spent a whopping hour out of the park marking and scenting every tree on his way, and then turned around and went right back out to Houdini's Meadow. Well, in the next 2 days, 147 buffalo migrated out that exact trail that he had just marked and scented. And that's one of the jobs of the bulls, is in the rut in August, they all come together and mate and then they kind of disperse from each other. And the bulls will go off by themselves. But what they're doing is going to an area that has enough food for their entire herd, so that if the winter gets severe, if things get bad, they know they can follow the trail to the bulls, and he'll be in an area that has a safety place for the entire herd. And that's what these animals did. Well, this year, first time in our history, 2000, not one buffalo was killed, and they did what you guys witnessed tonight, this haze back into Yellowstone Park, and they stayed. Well, the next year, Houdini comes out of the park, and this year, he's got 13 younger brothers he's going to teach the ways of how to dodge the Department of Livestock. And so, we hang out with these guys every day, right? But we understand our presence is intrusive as well, and that, we can be just as big a pain of the Department of Livestock if we're not careful. So in Houdini's Meadow, our camp is about 200 yards back behind 2 different tree lines, and we ski up a couple times during our patrol and check them out and observe them and hang out with them a little, and then we come back to our camp to be out of their hair. Well, we get, and then we have patrols everywhere else watching what's going on. Some are watching the Department of Livestock at Duck Creek, but we have communication with everyone, so we know when something's going to happen. Well, we got the call, they're coming out, they're in town. You need to go out there and get these bulls aware of it. So we're on skis, and we go out, there's 4 of us, ski out to Houdini's Meadow, and we stay about in a straight line, about 20 yards apart. Get about 50 yards, and they're still all bedded down in the morning. So we stop, and Houdini's the first one to get up, and he stands up, and he stretches. He takes his morning dump, and he's ready to face the day, and he kind of just keeps eye contact with me. And he waited till all 13 of his brothers did the same thing and got up and were ready. Then he kind of just nodded. So about this time, a couple things come into your mind. And the first one is, there's a saying in West Yellowstone that goes, when a buffalo lifts his tail, he's either going to charge or discharge. So if a buffalo's lifting his tail and he's not going to the bathroom, odds are he's not very pleased with your presence, and you ought to pay heed about that, because if a 2,000-pound animal does not want to do something, that's when you let it go and you just say, okay, we tried. Now, another thing and reason why we do this, we hate to bug these buffalo. That's not what we're about. That's not why we're in the field. And so on days when we do try and move them, it's a life or death situation. That's the other option, And so these buffalo know that. They know that we sit with them every day, and today we're asking them to move, so that's sending a signal that something's different today. And the last reason why we do this, if we can get these bulls into the thick woods and the thick snow, it really makes it hard for the Department of Livestock to drive those snowmobiles and maneuver. When they're slowing down to go around trees, they sink and get stuck, so it puts the buffalo to a huge advantage. So, sure enough, we go ahead and start moving forward in our straight line, and this happy day, they decide to move. As soon as they get in the woods, the circus begins. 8 DOL snowmobiles show up. They're chasing the buffalo into the woods. The buffalo hippies are skiing around trying to videotape the whole thing, and the whole ecosystem is turned into a circus. Well, it went on and on and on, and finally, 4 hours later, it was coming to an end. And we have a meeting every night where we sit down and we kind of discuss what we saw the night before, that we formulate, or that day, and then we formulate a plan what we're going to do the next day.